It's me, Vera, here to remind you that this is an adult podcast. That means we're going to deal with tough topics. Take a break if you need it, and be kind to yourself, because we sure won't be.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Stitch of Fate, a Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition podcast. As always, I am your storyteller, Mike Martin, joined by my four fantastic players, Dot, Bub, Josh, and Mark. Hey, everybody, how's it going?
Hello.
We're in the final three. The countdown begins to the end of the season. I'm excited. We'll just dive right into the episode here in a minute, but I've got a shill first. Thank you guys over at Patreon who allowed the show to continue. If you guys want to directly support the show, I mean, one of the best ways to do it is to head over to patreon.com/podbynight. There's a bunch of different tiers there if you want to chip in. All come with little rewards, so you get a little something extra for kind of helping us go along. And it means you get more content at the end of the day anyway, which is something we all want to do. If you can't do Patreon, reviews, rankings, telling people about it, spreading awareness of the show, obviously that's another huge thing that'll help us kind of just grow. And the more ears we hit, the more we can keep pushing forward with other ways of supporting the show that outside of Patreon. So all help in all different ways. Other than that, I don't think, we have nothing else going on in terms of like needing to push anything. I don't think we're not in any award shows right now. So that's it. Let's then bring it in, rein it in, set the scene, and see what our coterie is up to. The noise that greets our ears first is muffled conversation as the upstairs door to the Succubus Club clicks closed. The club is coming to its close as dawn is only a mere hour or so away, and we watch the magnificent Vera striding into her personal quarters, looking to immediately relax, hanging her hat up on a nearby hook and spinning to get ready to undo her dress, lest we forget that her dress is stitched every single night. And as she reaches forward with a long nail, ready to undo and relax herself, there comes a gentle, rhythmic rapping at the door she just clicked closed.
She strides over to the door.
With that moment of hesitation, gathering herself, and then striding over to the door, we watch as her elegant hand reaches down and turns the handle, and as the door swings open, as you might have expected from the knocking, there stands the ominous Duke Bremond.
It's a little late, Duke.
You're not wrong. Forgive me for interrupting your nighttime rituals.
Can I help you with something?
There is a small trace of visible unease that sort of rolls over Duke. He's already a very awkward person, and this just sort of makes him stick out. Like it's sort of like a sore thumb.
To stare at Duke is to stare at a well-crafted statue in most days. You know what to expect, what expressions to see, the sit of his brow, the weight of his lips on his face. So to see that change is like to stare at a similar piece of artwork, and suddenly the expression on that statue is discomfort.
I have a small problem. Something I've not been able to fix in a short time.
Okay.
This might be rather embarrassing, and normally I wouldn't turn to you, but desperate times, if you will. Vera, I'm hungry. And I lack the immediate means to feed.
Well, don't hurt yourself, Duke. It's all right. Come on in. I wave him kind of nonchalantly into her room, and I'll close the door. How long has it been?
It's been several months.
Well, I can help you with this problem. Just mail, right?
It's more than that. I oftentimes will exchange services, whereas a normal person may go to work a 40-hour work week and trade time for money. I trade services for food.
Well, yes, of course, you're a businessman. Oh, I get it. Well, I guess we should go visit. I hesitate to call them a friend. A human.
In the time that we've been together, have I been of use to you, Vera? Have I been useful in your employ?
Duke, of course you've been useful. Do you think I'd keep you around if you weren't?
I know I do not require much. I have managed to occupy a room that leaves you rather unsettled.
That room was already occupied before you got here, Duke. You and I both know that.
I have to admit, Vera, this is probably the most uncomfortable I've been, as I feel like I am asking for something.
Like I said, don't hurt yourself. It's all right. I understand. This happens on the occasion. It's why I keep this one around. You're not the only person who often struggles finding what they need.
And you said that this was a man.
Some would say. By our biological sense, yes.
Very well.
Mathis, how early is it?
You have
Probably
about an hour and a half to 2 hours of night left. Enough to
Well.
get there and get back, certainly, though whether he'd be awake or not, you're not entirely sure.
Oh, I don't care about that. Vera goes, what day of the week is it, Duke?
I believe it is a Tuesday.
Oh, perfect. He's only around here on Wednesday, which means he'll be home tonight.
I'll trust what you've stated.
Yeah, Vera's like going through in her head, like making sure where he usually is on a Tuesday night. And she'll ring a little bell. Because John.
Yeah, after a few moments, you hear a single knock before the door opens and in shuffles John, slightly hunched over. Yes, my lady.
John, I know the night is young and so are we, but
He gives a smile, showing many missing teeth.
we're going back out.
And he, as you say, you were going out and he smiles. He simply turns and in his front pocket, he pulls the keys and he jangles them as he shuffles out the door.
We'll meet you out front.
You hear nothing, but then after maybe 30 seconds, the first footstep on the stair, you hear the creak. And then the next. And then as you think you don't hear another one.
Duke, to make you feel a little better, to put you at ease, this is also very personal. The man that I'm going to introduce you to.
Very well.
So, a little give and take, hmm?
I'll prepare myself then. Shall we be leaving now?
Oh, yes, of course. I just wanted to give John a head start.
Oh, I understand.
As the two of you prepare and stride out and make your way down the stairs, as you gaze down the stairs, there's John taking the final step off of the stairs. You make your way down the stairs and pass him. In a few moments, he then eventually arrives at the front door, shuffling his way to the front.
Would Max be around? Vera usually doesn't leave without telling Max she's going somewhere. She either goes with him or tells him she's
With only
leaving.
a couple hours left in the night, I imagine Max is probably taking care of Max Jr., perhaps?
Yeah, Yeah, you know, the standard, shoveling out the little turds from that box of stuff.
So as you stride over to his luxurious, what was once a broom closet and now you might consider a cat palace, you see Max in a bathrobe bent over, the robe hiked up as he's scooping poop out of the litter box.
How much does this guy eat?
Max, don't let me startle you. Duke and I are going out. We have to go visit a friend.
Well, there's only a couple hours till sunrise.
I know, it's an urgent matter, of no great bother. Continue whatever it was you're doing.
Just cleaning up after this little stinker. But, you sure you don't need me with you?
If we're not back within the hour, you know where to find my stalker. We've dealt with him many a time.
Ah, right. Yeah, that twerp. Okay, Vera. I gotta admit, I think you should have put that guy in the ground a long time ago.
Yes, but then I couldn't use him like we're doing tonight.
Okay, but, I know this might sound silly, but keep an eye on him.
I have a feeling he and Duke may get along in the empty silence.
Yeah, I think you might be right. Okay, back to shit shoveling for me.
As Max spins back around, digging the litter scooper right back into that litter. I imagine Vera does not inform Shaun. He would be up in his room with his
I never
companion.
know if Shaun ever even comes back.
Fair enough.
Actually, you know what? Vera knows this club better than anything else. She knows the mic is still hot. She saunters up on stage and she grabs the mic and she goes, Shaun.
All you hear from a very long way away is, "Ah!"
We're going out. And then I just put it back. click it off.
You just hear Shaun as the camera hard cuts to Shaun's room. There's the man bundled in a pile of blankets. He just kind of points his finger in a half awake state. Does anyone tell her she's rude?
I wouldn't.
And he kind of throws blankets off of himself and clearly under the influence of something, whether something Shaun has done to him or it's something he decided to partake in. Even Shaun's not entirely sure. He saunters over to the door, swings it open with flair, steps 1 foot out, showing the world that he is wearing nothing, and simply shouts, "You're a rude bitch." And then he slams his foot back in and slams the door behind him, saunters over to the blankets, and then collapses with a large snore.
Shaun writes a little post-it note that says, if she comes for you, I can't help. Love, Shaun, and sticks it to his forehead.
Vera, of course, you heard the shouting. Does Vera do
Yes.
a damn thing? Knowing full well it was.
Do
one of
I know
Shaun's.
which one it is? Which of his
You gotta look.
posse?
He made a show of it. You saw.
Great, wonderful. I'll take note of that for
I
later.
figure. And Vera leaves. Duke, you've been waiting out front for a while, and John had only recently stepped through the door. And it's almost though he knows Vera in a sixth sense way. Just as Vera walks out, it times perfectly with John's slow shuffle to the passenger side door. And as he pulls it open, Vera swings out the front, glides into the seat as he shuts it. And then he shuffles awkwardly over to open your door, making you wait there for a few moments before he pulls your door open and escorts you in. As Duke slides in, the door shuts behind him, and then he, after about 30 seconds, makes his way to the driver's seat, and off the car pulls.
Oh, hi. It's me, Vera. While you're taking a break, take a moment to visit dieharddice.com. Die Hard Dice is a sponsor of this little podcast. They make what we do possible. During checkout, make sure to use the code STITCH-MAY, and you'll get 10% off your entire purchase. And we get a little cut for our own resources. Sounds like we only roll with the best.
It's about a 30-minute drive with New York traffic at this time of night to get down to where this particular man lives, south of the club in terms of geography. But I want to let Vera describe what this building looks like. What does this man's stalker abode, as you roll up to this corner store on this rundown city block, what does it look like to the naked eye?
It is a corner store. Glass front, but of course it's got bars covering the majority of it, and years worth of wind damage and dirt damage on it has made it almost, can't quite see through it, but you can see the silhouettes of lots of things kind of in the window. And it's just a simple sign. There's no name of the business. It just says taxidermist across the top. It's probably stationed directly next to a seedy pawn shop and a hat store that's very clearly a cover for another business front. And upstairs, maybe there's like a single light on, the only part of this building that's still like lit at this time of night.
As the car rolls closer, you can make clearly that the light you see is actually coming from the kitchen. The oven light is the only thing actually on the upstairs apartment right now. And as you get closer to the building itself, it's clear that the word taxidermist in those big blocky letters with a red outlining, the once white middle is now a offish white / yellow from years of disregard and not truly being taken care of. And if the lights were on, Duke would see, as Vera has in the past, only 3 of the letters work in that entire title. John rolls up, but does not turn the car off, merely stopping long enough for the two of you to step out of the vehicle about a block away before he then rolls around the corner and out of view, knowing full well he'll be there when needed, Vera, as he always is. As Duke and Vera stand on the sidewalk, where no streetlights are actually working properly, only one is flickering enough where it actually produces any sort of light, the two of you kind of stride forward. The sidewalks are empty, but there is still murmuring of distant conversations coming from apartment buildings with open windows and the like that litter the streets. And as you approach the front, Vera reaches forward, and without any effort, the front door swings open. No security on the front door, regardless of the bars on the windows, the clear aesthetic of caring for his business. It's almost as though he invites anybody to walk on in. And Vera looks non-surprised as she pulls this open, and Duke, probably looking as stoic as he always does, stepping in. The two of you make your way into the front little shop. And that's really what this is, a small little front shop. There's a register with a cash register, and as you walk closer, one of those attached things that can take credit cards that are way, way out of date at this point. And littered throughout the entire front shop are random smattering of animals, mostly rodents of rodent types, foxes, rats. You see a couple of squirrels. Whether they're well done or not, it really seems to depend on the animal, but a lot of them are exceptional. There's actually, I would like, just obviously Duke, I don't need Vera to make this roll. Give me a wits insight as you gaze upon these taxidermied animals. I am somehow way at the top. There we go.
There's one.
Your hunger is clouding your thoughts too much. Certainly these are all well done, but that's the only thing that you can think of before the thought of, I need to feed, I am hungry, it matters not, redominates your mind. I imagine Vera doesn't really stop to gaze upon the quote-unquote artwork in this moment. Do we see her simply just stride to the back door?
Yeah, I imagine so. She knows, and it's probably so crowded. There is like animals everywhere, or either you might even see a few trays of like jewelry or pendants and things made of bone and ivory, things of animals in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, and she strolls straight to the back as if she's done this like 1,000 times.
And it's become clear to Duke even more so at this point that this is where the white elephant likely originated from. Vera strides behind the counter, and as almost second nature, as though she has been here plenty of times before, this door is locked, but Vera doesn't check to see if it's locked. She merely presses a few buttons on the register as it swings open, lifts the dollar bills, and finds the spare key underneath before sliding it shut. With a twinkle in her eye, she walks over, slides the key in, and the door unlocks, and as the door creaks forward, opening inward, You're immediately greeted with a simple staircase and a concrete hallway that leads to a door 2 flights up. It's a simple door, has no number on it. It's a pasty gray, and there is a peephole that is only obviously visible. The only thing visible on the door itself. The door handle itself. Now, Vera, as you approach the door, this is where I'm curious. What would Vera do at this point? Would she simply try to enter? Would she knock?
It is rather late.
It is, yeah, it's about 2:30 in the morning.
Yes, I believe she would probably knock, right?
She would, then you see Vera kind of lift her hand and with just a couple of her fingers just gently knock on the door. And there's just deathly silence immediately following. There is no noise for a little while. Before wits awareness, the both of you.
Oh no, that's not how I do that.
Ooh, Duke, what a roll. 5 successes for Duke.
No,
1
one
success
for Vera.
for Vera.
She's not worried about it. She knows he's here.
Yeah. Vera doesn't really hear anything again. She's incredibly lax, but Duke, being kind of on his toes, hungry in the first place, in an unfamiliar situation, you actually hear the gentle racking of a pistol on the other side of the door before you actually see, but not hear, the doorknob begin to slowly turn. And as the door opens, you can see an inner chain lock dangle and just a voice on the other side. Who is it?
The only person that would visit you this time of night.
The door quickly flies shut. You hear the chain rattle before dangling and clacking with the door, and then the door swing open. And before you see a rather haggard-looking gentleman somewhere in his 40s at this point, maybe in the later side of them. Completely bald, shaved head. You know this is by choice, of course, Vera, because if he let his hair grow, it would look like he was Einstein in some ways, but, less intelligent and wild. His hair is when colored correctly, he likes to keep it a kind of a lush blonde. He literally enjoys that kind of bleach blonde look when he allows his hairs to grow, but you've pointed out to him in the past he looks better bald, and ever since then he's kept it as such. What he wears is a khaki pants with a stain in his left knee. These pants, Vera, are pretty much pants you catch him in every single time. This outfit is almost the exact outfit you see him in every single time, because matching those khaki pants is a really gaudy white sweater with fruits stitched all through it. In the stomach is a large pineapple that sprouts outward, and above it, cherries and strawberries fall on its side, and up by his left shoulders where the limes, oranges, and citrus fruits have all been stitched in. Initially, this was something his grandmother gave him, but he took up knitting, and he himself took apart the sweater at a particular point and restitched in some of his favorite fruits to add along the ones that his grandmother had put in. And this is what he wears every time you've seen him. And you watch him very openly tuck something, Vera, into his back pants. Duke, having heard the pistol rack, you likely assume he is putting the pistol away. As he steps out and away, he's a 5'3" man, incredibly short to the both of you. And he takes a couple of steps back, excited to see Vera. And then as he sees Duke, in excitement, I mean his eyes widen, and there's a tiny twinkle of a smile that just curls under his lips. But as he sees Duke, for the first time, Duke, you meet a gaze as stoic as your own. It drops, his eyes narrow, his lips purse, they thin, and he reaches into his front pocket on his pants and pulls out some glasses, and much like you, opens them, though they're more Coke bottle thick. He slides them on, and you watch his eyes enlarge in front of you. He says no word, and he just kind of makes with his left hand, a very kind of short come on in motion with his fingers, and steps out of the way.
Vera does what she does best. She makes a scene of it and strolls in.
Large strides and high heels on a dirty, carpeted floor.
Duke ascends.
This is a friend. My friend Duke. Duke, I'd like you to meet Lyle.
Lyle then shuts the door behind Duke as Duke strides in as well, and you watch as he chain bolts the lock shut, and you can clearly now see the pistol jammed and tucked in his own sweater. with the pistol when he kind of tucked it into his back pant. He slides the chain lock shut. He peeps through the peephole on his tippy toes to reach up, and then he turns around with like a shuffled move, and he looks only to Vera at this whole time. I wasn't expecting your company tonight. I don't know what I can do for you, but I can maybe cook you something. And then he, from that, shuffles off into the kitchen where he has an open can of beans, an open flame on his gas stove, and he slaps a pot on top of it and dumps the beans wholesale in it. You just hear the sizzling of the beans immediately burning as it hits the overheated pot.
As enticing as that might be, Lyle, I'll leave the beans to you. I know I'm breaking our usual arrangement, but I need a favor.
He looks to you just to the side of his eye. He doesn't really turn his head from the beans so much as he just kind of peeps over through his glasses to you. He then he opens up one of his drawers as silverware clatters loudly, and he pulls out just a fork, and he just starts stirring the beans with the fork. Never once turning the fan on to his oven as the burned bean smell begins to spill forward from the pot. He just looks at you when you say favor.
My friend Duke here needs the special treatment.
As you say that, he drops the fork into the pot and clatters. He kind of shuffle turns toward you, keeping his head low in an almost submissive dog-like stake, Duke, as you kind of note. But he looks up over his glasses to Vera. I only do the special treatment for you.
I know. Like I said, it is a special ask.
I only do the special treatment for you. And then as he looks up to you, he does lift his head a little bit and looks over to Duke. He doesn't deserve it.
That may be the case. But I feel like he does.
I don't like him. I don't like him with you.
Like I said, he's a friend. Don't make this personal, Lyle.
I've seen friends with you before. I don't like them.
I appreciate that. But when we made our little deal, you knew what you were getting into. So, I will sweeten the pot. You give my friend here what he needs. I'll give you some privacy, if necessary. And one night, next week, you can come into the club.
His eyes break from Duke, that never-ending gaze he was giving him as you talk to the invite, and they go back to you, his head still lulled forward in a submissive state. One time. Only one time.
One time. And for once, Lyle, I owe you.
Wits awareness. I want a wits awareness for this. Oh, Duke with 4. And Vera with 1. Vera, you pick up on it, or you assume he does it just because you know him so well. Duke, you watch as you watch a smile arrive and disappear as fast as you've ever seen one arrive and disappear. As she speaks of this personal treatment he's going to get, he smiles briefly before he turns around, ignoring the beans now burning as smoke is pouring out, and he quickly, with both hands, rips his sweater off, starts undoing his pants, and walking over to his bedroom where he swings the door open and never looks back, simply shuffling and throwing his clothes off as he walks.
I tell him he can keep his clothes on. He doesn't believe me.
We all have patterns, Vera. Things that make us comfortable.
Well, Duke, I hope you're comfortable now.
Not yet.
I'll be downstairs.
This might be a moment.
Be gentle with him. He's frail. And reliable, I point. Back to a businessman, and reliable.
Very well.
Duke strides into the other room, and Duke, before you even feed, he's sitting there naked, hunched over, with his arms crossed, just kind of on the bed, looking at the floor. He says nothing to you as you walk in. He does not look at you. His gaze stuck on one singular spot on the floor. But what you see in his bedroom, other than a place that he can sleep, is the room is littered with taxidermied animals in varying states of progress, lying about all across his room. Most of them even on his bed. There's a small clearing where he clearly sleeps, but this obsession at this moment has never been more clear to you. There's almost a resonating feel with a clear passion he has for this work, as it is the only singular obsessive thought he seems to clearly have. The rest of his house is barren of furniture, a plastic table with a single chair, the few little pieces of cooking attire in the kitchen, and the lack of food other than canned ones. But here, this is where he clearly spends almost all of his time. And you will, I imagine, feed. How many dots would you like to feed off of him? 2 is dangerous. 3 is almost lethal. Keep that in mind.
I'm going to take 2 dots.
Okay. You will put him out and doc. Some medical help wouldn't go amiss, but he'll likely be fine otherwise. He'll just need a couple days on his own to recover. So what are you at? Are you at 4 or 3? I can't remember.
I'm at 3.
So you're going to go down to 1?
Yes.
Cool.
While I'm doing this, before I do so, I want to get down to his level. I want to hold his gaze.
You try to hold his gaze as you kneel in front of him. Keep in mind, he's short and sitting on a bed, and even as you kneel, it's hard to bring yourself to his level. You could see the whites of his eyes. You can see the iris and whatnot, but he refuses to look up at you. If you were to gain his gaze, you would have to get kind of under him and like look at him from underneath.
Sure. Then before the act, I'll sit Indian style, probably a good 4 or 5 feet in front of him, and just kind of admire the room, looking at the taxidermied animals.
And there is clear talent in his ability to do this. Like, for whatever else you could say about the man as you observe his living habits in his store downstairs, he clearly has at least a skill. A mastered skill.
There are quite a few animals in here, Lyle. Did you find these around the city?
Give me a charisma persuasion to get this man to speak to you. If you have a better or more another suggestion for a role, I'd be willing to listen, but that's the first one that comes to mind.
Sure. Charisma persuasion.
You can always you haven't fed yet at this point, so and you can't reroll any of those, so
it lands pretty dryly.
Yeah, it's what happens when you're hungry, unfortunately. As it lands, like I said, as Duke kind of speaks and as you said, it lands dryly. It's perhaps even catching Duke off guard how dry it seems to come out, how the hunger seems to even to somebody who has a mastery of control over their own emotions, how even at this stage, the hunger can still influence you subtly in your words.
Does he seem to favor a particular animal over another?
The rodent variety.
He likes rodents.
Big rodent.
Are there
fan.
rats?
Yep, you've seen rats and you've seen squirrels. You've even seen pigeons. Some call the rodent of the air.
Not much in the way of larger game, though, I've noticed.
Unfortunately, again, he does not respond.
You struggle finding the larger game, or is this simply a matter of strength over purpose here, Lyle?
You watch as his feet kind of shuffle uncomfortably, but the one thing that doesn't move is his head. Almost when you move a bird back and forth, but the head always kind of locks in place as he shuffles. His head seems locked in place.
Vera's pretty sweet, wouldn't you say?
He shuffles again, even more uncomfortably.
It seemed to make you very uncomfortable when she called me a friend. Assuming that it's something that you had admired and wished upon yourself as well.
He does not respond, though it is clear to Duke that you've poked at something sensitive at the very least.
Lyle, you know that you at the very least, matter to Vera.
Wit's awareness.
2.
You wouldn't notice this if he wasn't naked. You watch as you see just subtly, as you mentioned Vera, Vera having a use for him or a fondness for him or however you phrased it. You watch as some of the muscles on his back seem to relax a little bit. While he still holds his shoulders rather hunched, those words did seem to bear some comfort to him in that moment. Again, he says no words, though, and his gaze is eternally locked.
She said you were useful to her, and I spoke of a problem that I have, and you were the first to come to her mind. She spoke with me in confidence. That must bring some ease to you, I'd imagine.
Nothing more. He says nothing else. I'm going to say he doesn't move anymore.
I see the amount of animals that you've taxidermied here. Are there any here that you would compare to Vera? Or is she
Make another roll for him real quick? He actually doesn't say anything.
Okay. Stoic and unbreakable. It's almost my favorite type. Well, Lyle, count your blessings that you were not born a woman. I'll be simple and quick about this.
And do we watch as Duke stands from his cross-legged position, taking one knee and just leaning in? As you place your hand on his chin or his jaw to tilt his head, he goes almost as though second nature, and you're able to lean in and drink. The blood is a little sweet as you taste it, the resonance of it bringing a pleasurable palate to your tongue. And as you lick, the wound is closed, and you watch as his eyes kind of close as he falls into that drunken-like state and then unconscious-like state as you take that extra second dot. You'll know he'll be okay in a couple days. He'd be good in under a day if he got a saline bag and maybe some medical attention, but he'll be fine otherwise.
I will cover him with his tattered blanket, and I will remove his beans from his stove.
As you walk over to the beans, they're completely blackened and stuck to the bottom of the pan. The sizzling smoke is now just a wisp of it. The fire's still roaring, and as you go to turn the gas fire off, you see he's using the power burner, and it's on complete max. You walk out the front door, shut it behind you, and down the stairs you stride, where the car is already running and waiting with Vera inside. The back door opens, and in steps Duke. The car rolls away.
Thank you for introducing me to Lyle. He seems a very peculiar sort. You do keep them that way.
He's one of the many degenerates in my life.
He seems very interesting, fairly unbreakable. He's been at his trade for a long while.
Yes, and he's very good at it.
You know, I could work with him. I met a man like him in prison by the name of Herbert.
No.
He had some particular habits. I practiced my first form of behavioral modification on him. When he was good, I gave him peanuts. When he was bad, I would splash him in his cell with water.
And the outcome?
He stopped getting attacked in prison. Stopped being thrown in the hole. Herbert Mullen. He was a killer. But he was a simple man. Easy enough to train. Not enough respect.
I find that most people don't get enough respect in life. That being said, you know where to find him if he lets you into his life. Good luck with that, Duke.
And as those words fall from Vera's lips, the camera kind of holds in place as it gets pulled out the back window of the car, and we watch as the car gets smaller and pulls off before the sun begins to rise. As the car pulls away, the camera pans to the sky and we watch as the night finishes and dawn rises. And as the camera pans down, we're in front of the Succubus Club. And walking out the corner of the Succubus Club is Shaun. sun glistening off of his face, with an expectant meeting today. After a few days of discussing things with the coterie, knowing full well that Larson would be here this day. And as you step out of the club, maybe more daring or brave than the last time, instead of being a couple blocks away, Larson is simply a couple feet away from the entrance of the club as you spin toward it. He gives a nonchalant wave with his hands in his pocket, turns back to you, and begins to walk without waiting for you to join him by his side.
Shaun follows at a distance.
After how much of a distance? Are you able to talk to him? Is he able to talk to you, or do you kind of keep him at a steady pace until you're sure you're somewhere safe?
Yeah, Shaun's gonna keep a few meters behind him so he can, follow, and Larson knows, obviously. But yeah, Shaun's gonna, while that's happening, just keep an eye out.
Yeah, as you're welcome to make me a wits awareness as you stroll. But he doesn't walk too terribly far. Maybe about a 10-minute walk to a rundown, broken bus stop with graffiti sprayed across it and glass shattered. As you walk, you don't seem to notice anybody follow you, Shaun. Simply you and him. And as he makes his way to the bus stop, he takes a seat. People still passing by, but at a decent enough distance, and most people here in New York mind their own business anyway. And he pats the bench rather sarcastically, gesturing for you to pop a seat next to him.
Yeah, as Shaun sits down next to him, he just says, "Oh, good morning. I didn't see you there."
He chuckles as he leans forward, and he's like, "Sorry, I didn't get you a coffee this morning." Figured we just kind of apologize. I just wanted to have a couple words. The last time we talked, you mentioned a few things. You caught my attention, obviously, but we can't lie to each other. Let's not beat around the bush. The last time we also talked, the past couple of times, I ended up with the knife nearly stabbing me in the back. Unfortunately, hitting a couple of friends of mine along the way, but here I am. So, I love the idea. Offering up the sheriff. Brave of you, boy. Tell me why I should trust a word that comes out of your mouth first. Why should I trust? This is what you want. Sell me. And he smiles.
Shaun smiles back and just kind of stares at him for a bit, as if he's suspicious of him. I think we're in the same place here. I remember not too long ago, I was helping out this girl, and she couldn't talk, see. Things got messy, people got in the way, and you hung me out to dry. So, I'm willing to trust you. But this is going to have to be mutual.
You know what? You're right. When you're right, you're right. I obviously hid things from you for a while, and as things started to unravel, I leaned on my own selfish desires and my own hope to keep myself and her alive. And you might not believe me, but there's a reason I didn't tell you I am your sire. Genuinely. And I because I'm not entirely sure I am your sire.
Oh, don't fuck with me. Don't fuck with me.
He shakes his head and holds up his hand. I don't really want to get into that right now, to be honest with you anyway. It's not pertinent immediately. Something we can talk about in the future should say this whole thing works out and we end up trusting each other here. A conversation we can have then. I'm willing to go along with you, but I need you to meet me halfway. So here's my proposition. We set this thing up to take out Kadir or kidnap him or whatever it is we end up doing, to be honest. haven't really figured that one out. You offering Kadir wasn't really on our books. Didn't expect that to happen. But on the night it happens, well before it happens, I want you to meet up with me. And I want you to come with me for that night. My people will take care of what needs to be taken care of with Kadir. I want to introduce you to some people upstate. We can have that conversation. I can tell you more truths, answer some questions you've had, and I can introduce you to some people that can better describe what our goal is than I have ever done to you so far. Because let's be honest, while I may be a primogen, that seat was never made for my ass.
Right.
And that way, if you're going to stab me in the back and you end up going behind my back and you end up killing everybody I send my way, at the very least, I still got you.
Yeah, we'll be together. Won't that be sweet? Right to the end.
So what do you say?
I say that sounds good.
There's genuine, I don't want to say shock. Shock is not the right word. It's not that intense. But he's taken aback by the agreement. Certainly, Shaun thought about it for a minute there. That was expected. But he's in a little, he definitely seems a little taken aback. He sits up right after a minute. I didn't think you'd actually agree to that. Not before, taking a night to think on it. AKA, speak to your, and he kind of gestures back to the club.
This has all been a long time coming. Kadir's gonna get what's his. And honestly,
he shakes his head. It's nothing personal against Kadir. At least not for me. Maybe for you.
Yeah, well, I got lumped. Maybe your fault, maybe someone else's. But I got lumped.
He actually holds up his hands and stops you again. No matter if I am your sire or not, it is certainly, at least partially, on my shoulders that you are in the position that you're in, Shaun. I owe you that much.
Oh, well, cheers, I guess. That makes me feel a lot better because I've sort of been a bit behind the curve on the whole rules thing of this. Mostly I didn't really want to know, but I do now. And I learned last night that I was supposed to be dead. So if
He takes a minute and truly kind of looks confused as his brow comes forward. What do you mean you were supposed to be dead?
the only way you get like this is being killed, right?
He breaks your gaze and he kind of looks off. Well, that's the question about Thin Bloods, ain't it?
I fucking knew it. I said I didn't feel whatever that was. It's different.
We all ride the line a little differently. Some can see the sun, others can't. Some are more closer to our dead counterparts, to put lack of a better term, and some are closer to the living. But Thin Bloods, there's no guarantee that we have to die to be what we are. It's something that, and he kind of looks beyond the buildings and kind of outward. Kind of what we're working, kind of work toward answering, at least part of it.
I want those answers. You can be damn sure of that.
He nods. I do too. He shakes his head. That's why I want to introduce you to the others.
More Thin Bloods?
He nods.
Oh. I don't think I've met any others that aren't you.
You did. You killed him.
For long.
He lets that word kind of hang in the air for a bit. Well, if you are as excited as you seem, I am cautiously optimistic of the next steps. When we get together next time, Just give me the time and place and what you know. I'll get everything set up, and I'll tell you where to meet us and when.
You got like a number I can call?
He shakes his head, but he reaches into his pocket and pulls a burner phone. I'll call you. He places it into your palm as he kind of feel his cold touch before he pulls his hand back. Third time's the charm, Shaun. Don't fuck me over this time.
You know me. Always charming.
That's my concern. He stands up, and there's no smile on his face as his ruffled brown hair kind of blows back in a gentle breeze. His scruffled beard just kind of giving a look of exhaustion always on Larson's face. And he doesn't say anything as he stands. He just looks to you and gives you a nod before turning on his heels and blending into the crowd. Shaun is left at the bus station as he brings his hands behind his head. He leans back a bit, kicking his feet out, taking in the sun for a moment. How long would Shaun kind of like linger here for the day, or would he head home?
Shaun's going to linger around the bus stop for another 20 minutes, just watching buses go by. And then he's gonna go for a walk around the city and light up a cigarette.
And we see as he begins to walk, the camera follows him for a while, pulls a cigarette out of his pocket at one point, and lights it up. And as he takes a long drag and lifts his head to blow the smoke, the camera watches the smoke and trails upward into the clouds. And that's where we'll hard cut. And we'll be back next week with the penultimate episode of Season 2. Bye, everybody.
Hey, it's Shaun. Now, I'm sure you've heard Vera say no phones, but if we're going to break 1 billion followers, then I'm going to need you to do me a little favour. If you could hop onto Twitter and follow us at Pod by Night, that would be mint, and a 5-star review on iTunes ain't going to hurt either. And maybe I'll share some of them spicy DMs with you. Cheers, mate.